Hello everyone, this is Killenberg. Today I'm going to be reviewing Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Now there's a lot of confusion about this movie. People always ask, why is it called Halloween 3? I'm actually going to explain that. Michael Myers was actually supposed to die in Halloween 2, and Halloween was supposed to become an anthology series about the holiday Halloween. This of course didn't work out. And this was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. Now I find this interesting because for those that don't know, Wallace was one of the people that played Michael Myers in the original. But what some might not know is this was produced by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter as well. So the original creators were involved. But this movie is a lot different than the other Halloweens. But it starts with this guy running in the rain, and he's holding a jack-o'-lantern mask. He makes it to a gas station, and he's later driven to a hospital. At the hospital we meet our main character, Dr. Dan Chalice. And we see for some reason the Silver Shamrock commercial bothers him. Oh, there's 3 Silver Shamrock masks. A jack-o'-lantern, a skeleton, and a witch. Now some guy goes into the hospital, and he kills the man I mentioned earlier. Dan chases him, but he puts gasoline on himself, lights a match, and blows himself up. We also learn about the man's daughter, Ellie, and Dan agrees to investigate the murder of her father. Now they end up going to Santa Mira, and there they actually meet a family. The dad's a salesman. His name is Buddy Kupfer, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. His wife's name is Betty, and their son's name is actually Buddy as well. There's also another lady named Marge there, and she was complaining because the button comes right off. Oh, she actually ends up dying in a pretty interesting way. She finds a microchip in the Silver Shamrock button, and she starts messing with it with a hairpin. A laser beam shoots out of it and melts her face. But yeah, at the factory, Dan and Ellie, along with Buddy's family, are being shown how the masks are made. However, there's a final process that they're not allowed to see. Yeah, after a while, we hear there's a curfew. And believe it or not, the curfew announcer is Jamie Lee Curtis. But yeah, then Dan goes to a bar. And here's something a lot of people might not have noticed. At the bar, a trailer for the original Halloween plays. So in a way, Michael Myers is in this. But there's actually a flaw with this though. This is during the curfew. If there's a curfew, how is the bar open? But that's a minor inconvenience. You never know, maybe the bartender doesn't agree with the curfew. And there's actually someone like that. There's another guy later on that says like, Cochran ruined the town. And that guy actually ends up getting killed by androids. And I mean, like, they rip his head off. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, Dan visits his kids, and he got them Halloween masks. But their mom already got them Halloween masks, and they're Silver Shamrock masks. Now, for those that don't know, him and Linda are divorced. Now, Ellie gets kidnapped by some of the androids. Dan breaks into the factory, but he's caught, and he gets tied up. Now, this is where we find out where everything comes into play. We see footage of Buddy's family, and the son puts on a jack-o'-lantern mask. While the commercial plays, the Silver Shamrock button starts lighting up. The son dies, yes, from the mask, and bugs and a snake came out of the mask. And Cochran actually told Dan about his plan. See, basically, he wanted to do a sacrifice, and he asked him, has anyone ever told you about Halloween? And he talks about Samhain and when the hills ran red. Now, one thing I like about this, Cochran doesn't look like a stereotypical witch or wizard. He doesn't have a big nose and green skin. He doesn't have warts, and he doesn't have a beard, and he doesn't wear a pointy hat with moons and stars. He just looks like a regular businessman. If you saw this guy on the street, you wouldn't think this guy's company is going to have killer masks. You just think, wow, this is just some old business guy. But yeah, Dan puts the skeleton mask on the camera. Now, Dan does try to call Linda, but she doesn't believe him. She just thinks he's drunk. But yeah, Dan and Ellie end up escaping. Now, he ends up dumping the buttons and turns the commercial on. It ends up having this laser beam in a circle, which I think is awesome, especially considering this is an 80s movie. And this actually ends up destroying the part of Stonehenge they used. Yeah, they were like using Stonehenge. I know that's kind of weird. And Cochran actually ends up getting shot by a beam, and he appears to turn into stone. And then that breaks. I don't know if this was ever really confirmed, but that's what it looks like to me. But then they escape, and it turns out Ellie is actually an android. Well, I mean, this Ellie is. It turns out to not be the real Ellie. He ends up knocking her head off with a tire iron. He actually ends up going to the same gas station from the beginning, and he contacts the television stations. The first commercial turns it off, and so does the second one. However, the third commercial keeps playing. Remember, this is in the 80s, so they didn't have all these channels we have now. But then when they continue playing, Dan says stop it repeatedly. It then ends with him saying stop it, and that's the end. I also like this because it kind of leaves up the ending to the viewer. Did the kids die, or was he successful? Because I know the commercial played, but there's also the fact that the stuff got destroyed in the factory. I actually have a very unpopular opinion about this movie. I actually like it. It's not as good as John Carpenter's Halloween, but I think it's pretty decent. I actually wonder how Halloween would have went if they stuck with this idea. But as you know, they went back to Michael Myers. I'm not saying that's bad, because I like Michael Myers too. But yeah, I like this movie. Now I hope you enjoyed my review of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I'll see you guys again soon.